Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to thread a very basic beginner sewing machine. This sewing machine is one I use all the time in my personal private classes that I teach here in San Diego. And I'm going to show you all the parts of this sewing machine, what they're called, and then we're going to go over how to thread your machine so you can do this at home. This is also a guide for people that take my class and would like a reference for after the class so they can follow along to have reminders to see how they can thread their machine. Remember, this is just one machine and you might have a different machine, so you always have to have your manual next to you when you are sewing. I have my manual here and we can refer to this. This is going to help you to know how to thread your sewing machine, and is something that you should reference regularly so that you know all the functions that your machine can do. So let's get started with all the parts of our sewing machine. Okay, the first place we're going to focus is the top of our machine right here. This is our spool holder for our thread, and we pull this up and then we place our spool of thread right on top like this. You can see right here there are some directions for winding our bobbin, and we are going to use these other directions over here to help us with our bobbin winding, but also our top threading. This mechanism right here is going to help us thread the top thread of our bobbin, but if you look over here, this little piece is going to help us wind our bobbin correctly. This little piece right here is a tension disc, and when we thread our bobbin thread, we have to snap the thread underneath this piece. The thread cannot just simply sit around this. It has to snap under it. You can see here there's also some directions. This dotted line is going to indicate how we wind our bobbin thread, and this solid line is helping us to thread the top of our machine. You have a more continued line here for our bobbin winding, and this is going to be our bobbin winder. So when we get to the point where we're winding our bobbin, which by the way, this is a bobbin, and you can see there's a hole on both sides there, okay? The bobbin goes onto this bobbin winder, and then you're going to push this over to the right. This mechanism gets pushed to the right or to the left. You're going to feel a little bit of resistance when you're pushing this. Do not be afraid of breaking it. It has to be pushed over to engage the bobbin winding mode. Next, you're going to see these three dials at the top. This dial determines how long your straight stitch is going to be. And for general construction, we'll keep it at a 2.5, 2.5, and that's 2.5 millimeter stitch length. This dial is going to help us position our needle, which I'll show you in a minute how that's moving it, but also it helps us to determine how wide our zigzag stitch is. So sometimes you have to use a zigzag stitch, and that will determine how wide or how narrow it is. When I tip this forward, you can see here, this is the needle position, and when I turn this, it'll make the needle move to the left or it'll make it move to the right. If you want it in the center, you just put it on this piece right here. This style is for the tension for the entire machine. In general, when you're sewing really basic things like quilting cotton and you're using basic regular polyester thread, we're going to leave this on a 4. We're not going to mess with this too much. We only change this when we get into very specialty thread or very specialty materials like heavyweight denim or leather. But I wouldn't recommend sewing leather on this machine. This wheel right here is our hand wheel, and it only gets turned toward us. We rarely ever turn it backwards. I might turn it just a smidge backwards to get the height of my needle to the right position, but in general, you're turning this toward you or counterclockwise. That's how it's going to run when you're sewing with the sewing machine. This dial, we're going to turn this to get our stitches. So our stitches are all right here. And when I need a black coated stitch, I'm going to use the black numbers here. If I want the purple coated stitch, I have to turn this dial way over here till I see SS, and then I will be stitching with these stitches down here. For general construction, we're only going to use these stitches up here really. Most of the time I'm using a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch in my classes, but there's some other stitches on here that we can go over in other videos. This is our back stitch button. You can see the little U-turn right here, and when I press this down, I need to press it all the way. It's like almost 2 steps, so it's one and then another one, and we'll be sewing backwards when we do that. Okay, this next clip, this right here is our take-up lever. This piece that's moving up and down, it is shaped like a big hook, and we have to get the thread behind it. So you can see on the top there's these guides. It's telling you which way to position your thread and things like that. So this that's going up and down, that's called a take-up lever. We have to get the thread hooked into that. And then I wanted to show you in between here, there are tension discs in here that grab our thread. So we have to make sure that when we are threading our machine, this presser foot is actually in the high position like that. And now we're down to the bottom portion of our sewing machine. This is the shank, and this connected to the bottom of it is called a presser foot. You can change these out depending on what you're sewing. So you might, if you want to sew on a zipper, you're going to put on your zipper foot. But in general, you're just going to have this regular foot on to start with. This is our needle here. And then to lower our presser foot, there's a lever up in here that we have to lower down. It looks like this. Sometimes it's on the very back of your machine, but you're going to lift and lower with this lever here. This piece that is metal here is called our throat plate. And this has measurements on it to help us see our seam allowance, which is something we will go over when we get to further classes and how to actually start sewing. But these lines have measurements on them, like a 1/2 inch mark, 5/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. These are all indications of where we place our fabric so that we get the correct seam allowance. Under here are feed dogs, these little grooved things. And when I turn my hand wheel, my needle goes up and down, and you can see them rotating. Let's zoom in here. You can see them rotating like this. They feed our fabric through the machine. So when we lower our presser foot, they touch, and then we can have the fabric go through the machine correctly. This mechanism right here is our automatic threader. So this is one of the hardest things to master. People have a hard time with this, but we're going to go over it when we get to threading our machine. Inside here is our bobbin case. It's where our bobbin lives. We place it in the bobbin in there when it's loaded with thread, and we'll thread it to show you how to bring the bobbin thread up and out of this hole down here. Let me take this off. This hole right here, that's where the thread has to come out of. This might be a little bit of a better angle for you, but this is where the thread is going to come out of, and these are our lines. They have our markings on them for our seam allowance again. Okay, we're going to start by threading our bobbin. We're going to place our thread on our spool holder, and we're going to follow these directions, placing it behind here so the thread gets wrapped around this piece. And remember, we have to pop it in, so it just went around it, and I'm pulling it tight so that it's underneath that tension disc. Now we're going to take our bobbin thread, and what I like to do is I like to thread it from the inside out. So in between these two walls, I'm going to place the thread inside and then go out this hole. So it should look like that. It's going from the inside out. All right, once we do that, we're going to place this onto our bobbin winder. I like to hold the thread straight up. We're going to push this over. Your bobbin is not engaged unless it is pushed over to the right. Then we're going to put our foot on the pedal, which is on the floor, and we're going to start winding our bobbin. Once the thread starts getting short like this, we can cut it off. And you're going to cut it right next to the bobbin. As you can see, the bobbin started skipping at the end. It's because it's pressing up against this piece, and that indicates that the bobbin is now full. We're going to push it over, take our bobbin off, and we can cut our thread anywhere. Now we have a full bobbin. From here, we are going to start threading our top thread. So we have to take all of this out. This is only used for the bobbin, this tension disc. So the tension disc thread comes out. Now we're going to look right here. We have our thread back here behind this piece, which is indicated by the solid line. We're going to leave this here behind there. See it behind that metal piece? And we're going to come straight down this way. All right, so far I have my thread coming down here. This is number 2. You're going to come straight down to number 3. And you're going to make a U-turn here, okay? It's important that this take-up lever is in the highest position. So it's got to be up there. When we bring this up, we're going to go from the right side of our take-up lever over to the left and straight down. Let me show you what it looks like on top. All right, on top, it's going to look like this. You go from the back right side straight back over to the left, just like it's indicating right here for the U-turn. And then you're going to come down. Okay, now we have number 5. We're going to go straight behind here. There's a guide right here. Right there. This little skinny piece. That is a guide we have to get behind, not this piece. This is a screw to hold our needle in. We're going to get behind this piece. Okay, so we're getting it behind this metal piece right here. That's what we got to get our thread behind. That's our last guide. To get it behind there, you need to grab the thread basically like this. You're creating tension to get it behind that piece. Don't try to loop it around with one hand. Okay, now we're getting to the part that complicates everyone. So we have our automatic threader here. We're going to make sure our needle's in the highest position. We're going to bring this down and push away from us. When I'm pushing away with my thumb, this piece comes forward. Inside this piece, these two plastic pieces, yours could be metal, it wraps around the needle. And when it does that, a little teeny tiny hook goes through the eye of the needle. So we are going to thread our needle this way. We're going to take our thread. I go behind this piece to create tension. And then you're coming underneath the plastic, not behind the needle, right in front of the needle. And now you can see that I have my thread hooked on to something. I can't pull it away. Now I'm going to ease up on the grip with my right hand where the thread is. See how I have it's slack? Now I'm going to guide this piece away, this piece, so I can pull that thread through, and it's going to create that teeny tiny loop right there. This loop is what you want to pull. You do not want to pull your thread tail back out. So we have to reach back here, and we're grabbing that loop, and I'm pulling all this thread tail through the eye of the needle. This is threaded through the eye of the needle. And your thread is going straight down the front of your needle. It's not twisting around it. Now we're going to thread our bobbin. For this specific machine, our bobbin has to be going counterclockwise or rolling off to the left like this. If you put it in backwards, it's going to be incorrect and you're not going to get good stitches. You can also remember it's P for it makes a little P shape for perfect. We're going to place this in here. There's a little opening right here that we have to get the thread behind. There's 2 notches, okay? You can also see your guide here is helping you to know how to wind or how to thread your bobbin. There's a little opening right here, and then there's one right beside it here, okay? We have to get the thread behind that. All right, so I have to get in that first part and then I'm bringing it back. Now this is the difference between the directions and what I do. I just leave the thread hang back like that. Just leave it hang there. I don't put it in this part. If you do, you can put it in this part if you want, but just remember that right here is a blade that'll cut your thread and make it very short, so it's hard to get it out of here. Now we're going to take our top thread. Our top thread is going to get placed into our left hand. Okay, and I'm holding on to it. With my right hand, I'm taking my hand wheel from before and I'm turning it toward me so the needle goes down into the machine and then back up. See how it's crossing over right here? You can kind of see it going back and forth, the thread. Every time you make a stitch, this top thread crosses over the bobbin and scoops it up and makes a stitch. So we're going to turn this until we get the needle into the highest position, and now we have another loop down here. This other loop right here is our bobbin thread. So we can drop the top thread. This one I can let go of. And now I'm going to pull this loop and pull the bobbin thread out. So now I have two threads, one here and one here. Everything goes underneath your presser foot. There's a slit here, you can see it right there, and we're going to place everything under our presser foot. So now both of them are under the presser foot and they go to the back. Don't forget to put the cap back on your sewing machine right here. And now you're ready to start sewing. I hope you did enjoy this tutorial. I hope it helps you learn how to thread your machine. In the next video, we're going to go over finding our seam allowance and we're going to do some practice stitches, and then we are going to make a pillowcase.